Hello. All right. Welcome to the latest edition of Ragic Office Hour. And let's start by doing a little bit of recap on the latest features that we introduced on Ragic. All right. The feature that we're doing the recap on this week is more related to, it's not exactly a new feature that we introduced just this week, but in recent months. And it's quite an important update, so I would like to share this update with all of our users so that, because a lot of users have asked for this kind of access right configuration, and we've only recently introduced it. And it should be fairly convenient for larger organizations or if you have some more complex access right settings. So usually when you set an access right configuration to a sheet, you usually go to the form settings and you configure the access right by groups, right? So if you want to have the group user to access the sheet employee as bulletin user, you just simply assign the role of bulletin user to the user group user. And the first thing that we newly introduced in recent months is that you're able to assign a sheet to an individual user instead of groups. So before this, you need to, if you want to assign a sheet to one individual user, you need to create a user group specifically for that user. So it's kind of harder to maintain because for some organizations, you will have lots and lots of user groups, single user groups created specifically for configuring access rights. So we've added a way for you to choose a user as the person you would like to assign it to, and this is pretty much just like a user group with the user's name, and you can still assign different types of user roles to the sheet to a user instead of needing to assign user roles to user groups all the time. So this way you don't have to create a user group for Jeff, and you can just simply assign the user role to Jeff. All right, this would be the first thing I would like to recap for and introduce to all of our users on the user access right setting. And the second one would be the field access right settings. I'm not sure if when you're configuring your sheets, you notice that we have a new access rights tab. So this way, you'll be able to configure different access right settings to a specific field. So before this field level access right setting is introduced, all the access right settings you're configuring is applied to the whole sheet. But sometimes if you want to hide a field to the current users, like you have employee sheets, you would like to share the employee information to all the users in your company. But there are some sensitive information for in employees, such as social security number, and you would like to share this field value only for certain groups of people, like only HR can access this. So you will be able to do this kind of access right setting here. And when you're doing this kind of field level access, you must keep in mind that this is an edit from the default behavior that you have on the group access right setting. So by default, for all the fields, the user have built-in user access rights. So you're doing a modification on the default access right that's specified at a form level. So what you're configuring is a field level access right setting at a field level, which overrides. Now remember, you're overriding a sheet level access right setting. So what you want to do, if you want to hide the social security number from most users, So you will need to configure, like for users, then it's no rights. So this way, users, even though users can access, almost all the fields on this sheet, but if you have field level access rights configured to no rights, then normal users will not be able to see this field. Okay, and if for some other people using this sheet, and that user need to access this, and we can go back to form settings and like assign bulletin users to HR people, so that those HR people, they are also from a sheet level, it looks like the HR department and the user group, they are both accessing the employee sheet with the bulletin user role. But on the field access level, the HR department, they have the default configuration, so that they will be able to see and edit if appropriate records. So they'll be able to see and might be able to edit the field value. But for users, they will never have the user access right to see or edit the social security number of this field. All right, and these two are the main items I would like to introduce that was recently added to Ragic. And these two access right setting features are pretty useful if you have a larger organization or more complex sheet design. Like before we have this type of field level access right settings, users generally will have to create multiple versions for this. So users will need to create one version of employee sheet and without the social security number for the general users, and one version of the employee sheet for the HR department. So, and this is still a pretty reasonable design to create multiple versions for different user groups, because when you're adding and hiding fields, usually that means it would be a good idea to create a different layout design for different types of use. So for HR, and they might just have one extra field, social security number, but they might have different focus of this sheet that they would like to focus on the fields that they access more often. So you might have a different layout design specifically for HR departments, and a different layout specifically designed for users. So before this field level access is introduced, the design idea is that if you have different access rights for different user groups, they generally will benefit from a different layout design. So creating a multiple version for different user groups makes sense. But in cases that we just talked about, in cases that we just need to hide a single field, we don't want to have a whole different layout design, then this type of field level access right setting makes sense. So this is like an extra tool for users to utilize, so that they can have simpler sheet designs, like less multiple versions, or when we're doing the form level access right settings, that we can have less single user or very few user groups created just for the purpose of doing access right settings. All right, and these two are the feature recaps that we recently introduced. I hope this is helpful, and we'll be getting back to our questions. All right, and first question: is it possible to, for lack of a different word, link a group of selections from one sheet, but then based on that selection, load information from another separate sheet entirely? Okay, so if you're loading information from one sheet, but based on that slash and load information from another sheet entirely, my first thought would be, how do you decide the relation between that one sheet and another separate sheet? How do you know which records to load? So that would be my first question. But let's look into the detail of this question. My company is attempting to create a data set for items that we sell and the various specifications that come along with them. That has been easy enough to use link and load for that task, right? So when you're selecting items from the item sheet, you can basically choose an item from another sheet and load other item fields onto the sheet that you're currently editing. However, the clients we provide these items to only ever need the specific items we provide. Okay? And they should never will purchase a different kind of other than we give them already. Okay? But they're still items. So my first thought would be, those items should be on the same sheet that you're currently managing. And you should be able to, add a different field to categorize, items that we only sell to this client. So I would think it would be a good idea to put all these items on the same sheet, but only differentiate them using a category field. Is it possible to create a link where I can use a linked item number to then give me information that corresponds with that item number in an entirely other sheet? The simple answer would be no. You cannot link with sheet A and try to load data from sheet B, because we wouldn't know the relationship between the item that you chose from sheet A and and which records on sheet B that you would like to load from. So there's no relation between them. Okay, for example, in screenshot, I want to select from drop-down list based on the link to another sheet, the product. But I want to load data from an entirely different sheet into customer product code and distributor item number that would have the product name in the sheet as well. Is it possible? Okay, so I would think it would be a better idea to just make them multiple versions, or on the product sheet, you can load the customer product code and distributor item number to the product sheet. Yeah, you could just load the data to the product sheet. I would assume this is the product sheet. Yeah, this is not selection, so I would assume that this is the product sheet. Okay, so consider this as a formula that would say if product answer from sheet A, then look through sheet 2 for that answer and return value. Okay, so basically I don't think you can do a link and load and, like I said, link to sheet A and sometimes load from sheet A and sometimes load from sheet B. It doesn't. Currently, the link and load doesn't work this way. But in your situation, your requirement, it seems like there are plenty of workarounds. So the simplest thing that I can think of is that you could load this customer product code and distributor item number to the product sheet, because you already have the product code or the product ID on the other sheet. You could just load that information to the sheet that you're linking to, and then you can load those data to the sheet that you're currently editing on. So that would be my first choice. And if that doesn't work for some reason, and I would think for those kind of products, they should still go into the product sheet. So yeah, from a second thought, your current design, it seems like that those items are already in the product sheet, right? Because how would you then, otherwise, how would you load the customer product code and distributor number? Okay, so let's define this question a bit more clearly. Say we're editing sheet A and loading, and the product field is linked to sheet B product, and other sheet with customer product code and distributor item number is on sheet C. Okay. Oops. It's link and load cannot link to sheet B and load data from sheet C directly. But there are few ways to make this So first of all, I would say, you should try to have all the data on sheet C to sheet B, because it looks to me they are both product sheets. Okay, load data, use link and load to load data from sheet C to sheet B. They all see what product mention. When you load these fields from sheet C to fields on sheet B, you will be able to load them to sheet A when you choose sheet B product. Okay, so this is the first solution I would suggest. And secondly, it looks like sheet B and sheet C, they're both product information. So I would think that they should be on basically the same sheet or multiple versions. B and sheet C both looks like product information. As a good practice, they should be in the same sheet. You can add a field to categorize and filter out products from a certain client, and all products should get on the same sheet. Yeah, if there are items, they should be on the same sheet. Sometimes when you feel like they might have different information, you could just have some of the items have value on these fields, and some of the items don't. That's pretty common for these kind of data. But the thing is that if they are actually the same thing, they are all products. If they're all products, then they should be on the same sheet, or at least the different multiple versions of the same sheet. If right, the sheet B and C are both essentially products, they should be sheet or multiple versions in sheet. Okay, so one of the mistakes that we usually see especially when non-technical people design databases, is that for the same type of information, let's say products or um, customers, because they might keep different types of product or different types of customers on different Excel sheets. So when they're mapping those Excel sheets to Ragic, they tend to think that, oh, I should, because I used to manage those on different Excel sheets, I should create different Ragic sheets to manage those. But that's usually not a good idea. When you're designing a database, you should always keep the same type of the types of information small. So not too many types of information, because if they are all essentially products, or if they're all essentially customers, and they're only different by like types of product, you could just simply add a field named type to switch between, you would like to, right now you would like to find a general product, and right now you would like to find specific types of product that we sell to this client. So by adding a type field like this, you'll be able to switch between different types of products. And I believe in most cases, if they're all products, they should have a large amount of fields that are essentially the same. So it would be a good idea to make them on the same sheet or multiple versions of the same sheet. All right, I hope this answers your question. Okay, next question. Why are we not able to combine and or in multiple criteria of conditional formatting? Yeah, this is kind of simple. We just don't support it, haven't supported yet. And also the reason we haven't supported yet is that there's a pretty easy workaround to using ORs. We support and, but not ORs. So to use ORs, you just create two rules, because for both rules, in almost all situations, if you want to use OR in criteria for conditional formatting, you could just add two criteria or three criteria, and they're basically OR together. So, right now, OR is not supported in multiple criteria. I think it's called criterion for conditional formatting. Yet, but there's an easy workaround. You can generally create multiple conditions when you need to And that is something that we might support in the future to have or, but first of all, it takes time to implement. And secondly, it might make the whole overall conditional formatting UI a bit more complex. So right now, we're still looking into like if we will have a better design for this. Okay, next question, can you clarify the correct way to use embedded reports? We presume that embedded reports will maintain the report criteria selections, but when someone else linked the embedded reports, the report criteria no longer reflects the initial report that we ran. Oh, okay. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, because the filters, you're referring to the filters, right? Because when you're doing a filter on a report, the filtering status is not um, it's not contained in the report URL that you share. What is the solution to create a report with fixed selection criteria beyond just selecting a view and then being able to use this over and over as data changes? Please know we're using grouping report. Okay, I think this is the same for all reports. Right now, the easiest way to do this is to create views. You know, of course, you mentioned beyond just selecting a view. And if you create views for these reports, you will be able to use those selection criteria over and over again. But right now, the reason that when you share the embedded report is and it's not and when the user receives the URL and it does not reflect the status of your report when you are filtering on, is that no, the filtering status is not reflected in the URL of the report that you shared. And this certainly is something that we can improve on so that we can include the filtering status of the report when we're doing the embedded reports. So I think this is something we can enhance on. And for now, the better way to get around this is to select a view to make sure that it has the correct view of the report. Currently, sharing reports does not include the current filtering status that the sharer has on the report. This is something we can work on so that when sharing URLs includes information on the sharer's current filter status. Okay, for now, it would be the best workaround would be to use the views as you can apply new filters by selecting the drop down at the corner. All right. Okay, and thank you for your feedback. And this is certainly something I will discuss with our report development team, and when they're making enhancements to the report sharing function. All right, and that's it for the questions for today. And I hope you enjoyed the office hour sessions, and I hope this is helpful. And for more questions, you can use the office hour question sheet to ask your other questions, and we'll be talking to you on the next office hour webinar. And thank you for joining in, and goodbye.